All right, so are you ready to chase some storms?
Let's do it.
Okay, perfect. Because in this deep dive, we're going to be talking all about storm chasing with a really interesting source material, Storm Chasing Frequently Asked Questions, written by Dan Robinson, who is a seasoned storm chaser.
Yeah,
So we're going to be separating fact from fiction today.
sounds good.
A lot of people think about Twister
Yeah.
when they think about storm chasing.
Absolutely. Twister really had an impact, It kind of it shaped a lot of people's ideas about this whole world.
It totally did. So let's jump right into it.
Fun.
Is it really all adrenaline junkies? Right? Is it really just people who are dicing with death for, a thrill?
Yeah.
Dan doesn't really paint that picture though, does he?
Not really. I mean, he definitely emphasizes, like the calculated risks
Right.
and the planning that goes into it. So it's more like, I don't know, like a weather safari. You're respecting nature, but you're observing it from a safe distance,
Yeah.
I like that. A weather safari? That's great. But what about, because in the movies, it makes it look like tornadoes happen every day.
Right.
But Dan throws out some numbers that I think really put things into perspective.
Oh, for sure. He said like a good chase season, you're maybe spotting a tornado like once every 15 days.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's a lot of driving around and, looking at weather patterns, waiting for the right conditions.
That's a lot of patience involved.
Yeah,
It really highlights the patience and the expertise that's needed. And speaking of expertise, one of the terms that gets thrown around a lot when it comes to storm chasing is this idea of core punching.
Right.
So what does that actually mean?
Yeah, so that's actually a great example of where Twister kind of got it wrong,
Okay.
and dangerously so. It's not like driving into the tornado itself.
Okay.
It's more like driving into the heart of the storm.
Often to get, a clearer view of the actual tornado forming.
Okay, so it's not as like recklessly suicidal as the movie makes it seem.
Right.
But it's still incredibly dangerous.
Yes.
Right. It's really dangerous.
So what are the real risks there then?
So a lot of experienced chasers will tell you that core punching is something you try to avoid if you can.
Okay.
I mean, number one, hail. You're talking about like baseballs, even softballs, like bombarding your vehicle.
Yeah.
Then there's like almost zero visibility in there.
Oh, wow.
And the very real possibility that you could drive into the path of a tornado without even seeing it.
Oh my gosh. Hard pass for me.
Yeah.
But it sounds like, Dan really drives home that experienced chasers, they really prioritize safety
Absolutely.
over these risky maneuvers, even if it means, maybe missing a good shot.
Yeah, and that's really the key difference between like the pros and the thrill seekers. They recognize like, okay, this is getting too dangerous. We need to back off.
Yeah.
Which actually brings us to a point that Dan emphasizes, which is, the most surprising danger is actually not what you'd think.
Yeah, you're talking about the car accidents,
The
right?
car accident.
It blew my mind when I read that.
It's a reality check. It's like out of all the storm chasing deaths that were recorded before 2013, every single one was because of a car accident.
It's so easy to get caught up in the image of twisters just ripping through the landscape.
Right.
But the open road, that presents a whole other set of challenges.
Oh yeah. You're talking about long hours on the road, driving at night a lot of times, constantly checking the weather data, going through unfamiliar territory.
Yeah.
And then you add in the potential for fatigue. You've got distractions maybe from passengers, from your equipment, the pressure to get to the storm before it's gone.
It's a recipe for disaster if
Yeah.
you're not super cautious and aware. And I'm guessing that's why Dan's so adamant about, drivers keeping their focus on the road, not on their phones or laptops or whatever else.
Absolutely. He calls out distracted driving as like, public enemy number one for storm chasers.
Yeah.
Like checking your radar while you're driving might seem harmless, compared to like an actual tornado, but it can have far more tragic consequences.
Right. Like it's a good reminder that even when you're in pursuit of something that's, so extraordinary,
Yeah.
it's often those everyday risks that you really need to be, most vigilant about.
Absolutely.
But beyond even the immediate dangers on the road, Dan also kind of hints at, the toll that chasing can take on a person's life, right?
Yeah.
Financially and socially.
Yeah. He talks about how the thrill of the chase can be it can be addictive for some people, and it can lead them to prioritize it over, over everything else in their life.
Yeah.
And that can really put a strain on your finances, on your relationships, especially if it's not, managed responsibly.
It reminds me of those Twister characters again, right?
Right, right.
Like
Yeah.
they were so immersed
Mhm.
in the chase, and it often was at the expense of their own personal lives.
Right.
So there's a really human element to this that we don't always consider.
Yeah, for sure. It's true, it's easy to like romanticize that lifestyle.
Yeah,
But the reality is there are those hidden costs,
totally.
both personally and professionally.
So it makes you wonder, how do you even become a storm chaser? Is there like a training program?
Right.
Do you need a license? Like what's the deal?
It's surprising, but Dan actually says there are no like official certifications required.
Really?
Yeah, you don't need to get like permission
All right.
to chase a storm.
So theoretically, anyone listening right now could just like hit the road and start chasing.
Technically, yeah.
Wow.
But he's quick to point out that, safely and successfully chasing, especially, in Tornado Alley,
Right.
that area in the Great Plains where tornadoes are most frequent, that requires more than just enthusiasm.
Right. You don't want to be like learning on the fly when a supercell is barreling towards you.
Exactly.
So what are we talking about? Like what kind of experience and knowledge do you actually need?
So he emphasizes like a deep understanding of meteorology,
Okay.
particularly, severe weather forecasting.
Right.
You need to know how to like read those radar images. You got to recognize storm structures. You got to be able to predict their behavior.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, like actual experience in the field is crucial.
So I imagine there's a pretty steep learning curve, even if you've got, a good grasp of like the theoretical side of things.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That's why he actually recommends, like, if you're just starting out, join a storm chasing group,
Right.
or tag along with seasoned chasers for your first, few trips at least.
Right.
There's no substitute for learning from, the people who've been there and done that.
Wow. So it really is like an apprenticeship
Yeah.
for, well,
Right.
for adrenaline, maybe not junkies, but you know what I
I do. And while we're on the topic of misconceptions,
Yeah.
let's talk about the myth of the storm chasing job,
Oh, yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
can you actually make a living chasing tornadoes?
Right. It's like, it does sound like something out of a movie.
Right.
This like, grizzled veteran storm chaser who just like
Right.
makes their living off of, the thing that terrifies most people.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a tempting image, but Dan doesn't sugarcoat it.
Right.
Like making a sustainable income solely from chasing storms, it's incredibly difficult.
So those storm chaser for hire ads that you see sometimes,
Yeah.
those are more
Yeah.
fantasy than reality.
Pretty much, yeah, for the most part, yeah.
Wow.
He breaks it down like just the expenses alone are astronomical,
Yeah.
You got gas, you got vehicle upkeep, lodging,
Oh, yeah.
and then, of course, like top-notch equipment.
Right.
All for, the chance to film something incredible.
Right. And then even if you capture that amazing footage,
Right.
I imagine selling it is a whole other,
Oh,
yeah.
exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So while there are definitely avenues for generating revenue, selling footage to news outlets, you could lead storm chasing tours, you could even like contribute to research projects.
Right.
He really emphasizes that these are all like super competitive.
Right.
They're often seasonal and they rarely actually cover all the costs, let alone like offer you a comfortable lifestyle.
Right. So you're not exactly like retiring early on storm chasing profits.
Yeah.
No, not unless you've got a really good side hustle going or a trust fund somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
But his advice is clear. If you're chasing storms for the money,
Yeah.
you're in the wrong field.
Right.
It really has to be like a labor of love,
Yeah.
fueled by a genuine fascination, with these powerful forces of nature.
It's that unwavering passion, I feel like. That's the common thread
Yeah,
among the people who do this.
absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Like they have this drive to be out there and to experience this.
For sure.
But even for those of us who, prefer to experience tornadoes from the safety of our living rooms,
Right.
there's still something captivating about it.
Oh, absolutely. And Dan actually makes a really good point. He
Mm.
says, like, while tornadoes, they might be like the poster child for for storm chasing,
Right.
there's a whole spectrum of captivating weather phenomena out there,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
Lightning storms, hailstorms, even just unique cloud formations.
Right. You don't have to travel halfway across the country
Exactly.
to witness like the raw power of nature. It's like he's saying you can find, beauty and wonder
Yeah,
in your own backyard.
exactly. Every storm, no matter how small,
Yeah.
has a story to tell.
Right.
And he really encourages everyone to kind of like become these amateur meteorologists.
Right.
Learn about the weather patterns in your own region.
Yeah. So instead of chasing the most dangerous storms,
Yeah.
maybe we should start by appreciating the power and the beauty of the ones that are right there,
Totally.
a little closer to home.
Absolutely. It's about like cultivating that sense of awe and respect for these forces that shape our planet wherever we are.
What a fantastic perspective shift I think Dan has given us today.
Yeah.
It's not just about the chase. It's about the understanding and the
Yeah.
appreciation of these incredible natural events.
And who knows? Maybe by understanding the science behind these storms,
Yeah.
we can even approach them with a healthier dose of respect and caution.
Well said. Well said.
Yeah.
So to our listeners out there, we challenge you to become storm spotters in your own right.
Right.
Pay attention to the skies, learn the language of the clouds,
Yeah.
maybe even do a little digging into your region's unique weather patterns.
Yeah.
You never know what fascinating stories you might uncover
Exactly.
right from your own backyard.
It's amazing what you can find when you start looking, right?
It really is. That's the beauty of a deep dive, I think.
Yeah.
Right? Opens your eyes to new perspectives and possibilities.
For sure.
So thanks for joining us on this exploration of storm chasing.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, everybody.
We hope you've gained a newfound appreciation for the power of nature
Absolutely.
and the importance of respecting its fury.
Yeah.
Until next time,
Keep your eyes on the skies.
keep your eyes on the skies
And to keep your feet on the ground.
and your keys in the ignition.
There you go.